I don't know who that is.
We're live.
I don't know who that is.
Welcome in, everybody.
We're live?
We're live.
Oh, whoops.
Wait, what?
So
Chris?
It all happens very quickly
You
now.
sneaky
It happens
bastard.
quickly. Sorry. It was quick.
What
Papa
if we were all
chicken.
dancing around naked?
No, I was watching.
Oh.
Well,
Wait a minute.
welcome in, everybody. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. Law Dog, Sarcastic Grandpa, Flapjack, Paint Liquor, Restream Robot,
Restream Robot?
Restream robot.
the hidden hero, Rattlecan. Welcome in, everybody.
Hello. Master Gene is also here.
Master
I'm going to call her Gene from now on. Hey, Gene!
Welcome in. Big Bob.
Big Bob says, did someone say we're dancing naked? Asking for a friend again.
You're not. That is an exclusive stream. Cost millions of dollars.
Gets us kicked from Twitch at least.
That's right.
Probably YouTube too.
Yes, we have Jen today.
And
Hello.
Poppy.
Jen and Poppy.
Hello, everybody. And a tank.
And a fixed zoom. See? Ready?
tank.
Whomp. Shomp.
What?
You want me to back it out a
What
little,
happened
or is
to
that
the guy
good?
that you
That's
were
fine.
Cool.
painting? Is he done?
He's done.
Done.
Tony.
Done all the way?
Done all the
Tony the
way.
Tiger?
Kind of.
Is he great?
He's great. He is done. There is,
I got to finish the leather on the handle.
but we've decided.
And I got to finish the chain I always forget.
Oh.
But yeah, other than that, he looks great.
Cool.
Yep. Welcome in, everybody. We are continuing with painting a vehicle today.
Zoink.
What are you
It's
going
a
to do
tonk.
on that, Jason?
We're going to start with some lovely, delicious dry brushing.
Nice.
I like to do a little bit of a dry rub on my tanks before grilling them up nice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just go get... Do you need all of them?
Do you need all the dry brushes, Jason?
I would like a full set, yes. Because as I'm looking at mine, they're all old.
Do you need a tube?
Huh?
Just the brushes. Just the brushes, or you want a tube?
Just all of the brushes, but I don't need the tube, no.
All right, Jason. So give me the kind of the high level view of what you're going to do with the dry brush, like the concept behind it.
Well, so with the way that we airbrushed the kind of weathered highlighting on here already, the next step before we apply any more of the detailed weathering, like scratches and whether we've got like weather staining, oil drips, smudging, oxidation, all of that, is I want to start to pick up the edge detailing. Everything like the little rivets, dry brushing will pick up all the hard edges, of course. But we want to get that all detailed in because any of the scratches that we do on here will cross those edges, right? So you can imagine that if we go in with a sponge and scratches like we do, or if I paint them by hand, some of them will overlap the edges. And so if you do not do an edge highlight on the tank prior to your weathering, you're forced later to have to find a way to highlight all the edges in between the scratches. So instead of being able to pull like one edge highlight across here or dry brush an edge highlight across the entire upper surface, now you're having to go and do 15 million touches in between scratches, and it gets to be a real problem. So this is one of those staging of your efforts to make it as simple as possible to get to the end game. And the end game is to have a highlighted edge that also will be broken up with some scratches. So rather than highlighting the edge around the scratches, highlight the whole edge and put the scratches over the highlight.
Nice.
We'll go back and have to re-highlight some of those edges later, but this will get the heavy lifting done for us. So it's a great way to start off.
Sweet.
That's it. That's what we're doing. Like I said, it's a dry rub before the barbecue. Thank you, babe. Ask and you shall receive new dry brushes. Because what I really want is the DA2.
The DA2.
That's what I really want.
That's a fresh brush.
Boy, that is a fresh brush.
That is right out the...
That is a very
Nice.
fresh brush. You do not want to take this brush to prom.
Or do you?
But maybe you do.
Wow.
Don't get fresh with me, brush. Fresh brush.
The DA100
Guy.
is better. I've seen Jason use that before. It's
You
pretty
have
cool.
not seen me touch that damn house. It's over here someplace, I think. It's
You
there.
you put it there. You were like, Chris, where's my DA100? I'm like, I don't know, man. And you're like, man. I'm sorry, chat. It's the truth hurts sometimes. That's why I'm always in pain. All right.
See what I have to deal with, chat? This craziness. This world we live in, chat. People pretending to be me. All right, so to get set up, we're going to be doing Faded Green. Faded Green was the brightest color we used in the airbrushing, but we never used it on its own. We mixed it in with the Camo Green for that last spray. That's the dried version of it there in the cup. So that was Faded Green and Camo Green 50-50. Now we want to take the Faded Green on its own and use it as our dry brush, because it'll be a bright enough edge, but because we'll be using so little paint and a really, really delicate dry brush on these parts, we won't see it as being hugely bright. What's the problem, Christopher?
No, we're good.
Christopher's over here
It's my mind.
pulling out stools, pressing buttons, climbing up and touching the ceiling.
I had so many little problems.
Worries me. Worries me, Christopher.
We're good. All right.
I have my trusty paper towel. This is my dry brush palette, my fancy dry brush palette. These, if you pay attention to sales, can be had at Costco for like 80 million sheets for like $10. So it's a lot.
Now, do you have any tips on like your consistency when you're getting it off on the paper towel here? Like,
You want to zoom in a level?
yeah,
Boing. So I load the brush up first. That's quite a bit of paint. So this is going to be fairly wasteful. But what we're trying to do is kind of season the brush, I call it, right? So it's like seasoning a pan, right? Season the brush. And then I'm going to lay it to where that paint is in a spot on the paper towel. Then I'm going to rub it around in the paper towel spot, right? And then finally kind of rub it out to the outside to where it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of paint left on there, right? And then we're going to come over here, and that first pass when we're seasoning the brush won't have a lot of effect. Like as I use this, I probably won't see a lot of brightness along this edge. I'm not, just a little bit. That's fine. So then we'll go back and continue to do that. I'll continue to grab more paint. And, you know, the more you do this, the more color you'll get each time you go back across the model. But you want to, especially in this case, I want to make sure that I'm just doing really nice little tight strokes along these edges. I'm using the DA2 here, the angle dry brush, rather than the dome dry brush, because I want to be able to get these edges and be very specific with only leaving paint along the edge and the little spots on the rivets and such, and not get much paint on the flat surfaces. The dome dry brushes might tend to get a little bit more paint on the flat surface as you go because of the shape of the bristles, whereas the flat brush will only catch that edge. Now, you are having to control your brush pressure and your hand motion in order to make sure it doesn't get paint everywhere, because you could just go, you know, like you're painting a house with a DA100.
No comment.
Which is not what we want. So you want to just make really brief strokes that are really just hitting that corner. Okay? Then when I come down to something like this little spot here, I'll just very quick, rapid hits, always in the same direction. Right? Boom. Bring that out, but not get anything around it. Right? I can also go in and just hit these little rivets down low. But that's kind of risky. I know I don't have a lot of paint on the brush right now, so I'm okay with it, because I don't want to get a lot of texture or paint on other areas. So I'm really just going for the top of things right now.
Nice.
We don't use the angled dry brushes for a whole lot, but this is one of the situations where they're key. Right? And then we come back in, do the same thing. Hit those top edges and get in there with this flat brush nice and easy, whereas a dome brush wouldn't get in there and do just that edge. A little bit harder to hit it. Always tilting the model to make sure that the way I'm pulling the brush just goes along the edge of the surface I'm looking at. So you'll see me rotate the tank and keep my brush stroke pulling directly back towards my body, really, is the way I want to do it.
Now, Voldemort's asking, are you going to add rust later on the tank?
I don't know that I'll do a lot of rust. I will do like streaks and grime and such. Things that are used and in use typically don't have a lot of rust on them. Now, we do that in like the world of 40K. You can definitely do it on this tank. We might have a couple of spots where the paint chip is so bad that there'll be a little rusty color inside the paint chip. But you can imagine that there's a crew that still takes care of this tank, even though it's beat up and sees a lot of action. So we don't want to do too much rust, because that starts to make it look a little too unused, and that's not what we're going for. I can turn the dry brush sideways and pick up just the little...
It's a tank from Dust Tactics.
Yeah.
1947, I think?
Dust 1947, Dust Tactics. The game changed names as it went from owner to owner.
Does it have legs?
It does. It's like a tank. It's like a tank walker.
Yeah.
It's a little cell.
It doesn't look like a tank.
The top part kind of looks like a tank.
Wait a minute.
Look, guys, it's a tank. Oh, that looks perfect until, wait a minute.
It's actually,
it has foots.
It's actually a really cool model.
It is. It looks. Really
It's
cool,
just very unique and interesting.
Yeah, I love these. It's a hybrid walker.
Welcome in, everybody, if you're tuning in. Wad, Paint Liquor, Skinner.
Why tomato? Why do you want to throw furniture?
If you're just tuning in, we are we are continuing with the dry brush today. Yesterday, we did the panels on this. A lot of airbrushing tips yesterday's VOD. So if you were looking for some tips on cleaning your airbrush, how to use it, yesterday's VOD is your thing.
Yeah, we did everything you see here before this dry brush layer you're watching, all with the airbrush. So all that pre-weathered layering, all done with the airbrush. No brush work at all on this until this edge that you see me dry brushing right now.
Grant, we need more paint.
Uh-oh, Grant, you're in trouble now that they know that that's you.
I know, yeah. That was...
You're going to be harassed in chat.
Lumberjack Tim, welcome in.
Hey, Tim.
Iterator, Sarcastic Grandpa, Hoosier.
Oh, stuck in the office, Wad? That makes you want to throw furniture? I get that.
See how it just can you do the super zoom?
Yeah.
Look at how I'm just focused on the edge.
Yep.
Unlike a big wild dry brush, I'm not pushing color anywhere except for the edge of these details. Again, this is where the flat angled dry brushes that we make come in super handy.
Voldemort asks, do you sell textures? Also, do you use textures like water or dirt?
We make texture paints, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Faux show. Well, we do not do water. We do the various forms of mud and or dirt. We make a coarse and fine earth grain in gray, brown, Martian red, sand.
No.
Then we have a snow.
Golden earth.
Golden earth, but it's like a sand color is what I mean. And
the fine and coarse are only in the brown and the gray.
And then we make a snow and a concrete.
The concrete, if y'all haven't tried that is very, very fun to use.
All of them are, and even though like snow is called snow, it really is just a very fine
texture
that can work as mud, you name it. Right, so now you can start to see our detailing come alive, and what this also does is it refocuses the eye by giving us a solid edge of color, whereas the airbrush doesn't do that. The airbrush leaves everything a little bit out of focus because of the way it applies the paint in such a soft, speckly atomization. Talked about that a lot yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
This quick dry brush of edges, just being very light. You know, I'm not doing the standard scrub the model like you would if you were doing like a big 40K model or something. You just want to do a bunch of dry brushing. This is a very light hit on the model to get all of this done.
Synthetic Sense, when do you have a concrete? We've had it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of make, you could also use concrete because you now just need an asphalt. You could add some black paint.
Just put black on it.
Yeah. To the concrete. It actually would look really cool.
Yeah, it's a dark gray, or it's actually warm gray is the color of the concrete. And then you can color it however you want. We have them pre-colored for you to make it easy, but you can do them however you like.
That is the model again is from Dust 1947, Dust Tactics.
Paulo Parentes Dust.
Here's a question from Voldemort. When you start painting a model, do you have a clear picture in your head of how the model will look? Or during the painting, do you decide to add more and more stuff?
Sometimes. It depends. Like when we started this, as an example, I knew that, when Chris and I were going, hey, let's do a vehicle. We haven't shown people painting a vehicle in a long time. It'll let us do the airbrush. So, when I knew we were going to do a vehicle, it started putting ideas in my head, right? And then when we found this particular one, then color starts to come into play. I'm like, okay, great. This is kind of a U.S., or British Sherman Walker. So I feel like, a greenish kind of coloring to it would be great. That military fatigue green. So that's what we're doing here. That works well. So then it starts to kind of come alive, so to speak, visually. But no, I most of the time, the model really gains ground as I paint it. I say all the time, and I make fun and say it sounds kind of hippy dippy when I say this, that it's let the model decide where it wants to go. But I do believe that, right? Because and what that really means is that as the painter start to get a better feel for the dimension of the model, the different parts, what everything is, the shapes, the actual, like, what is this thing that I'm painting, then you'll maybe make changes to your direction on what you think that a color should be or how bright it should be, right? And a lot of that just happens as you paint around the model. As you start, putting paint on it, you say, okay, this is kind of like a great spot for oily color down here where these pistons and stuff are. So it evolves, unless I'm doing something like, like a particular model, like we did the lion bust. I kind of knew going in exactly what I wanted the lion bust to look like.
Yeah. Synthetic was saying, oh, would you add black paint to the concrete? Yeah, I would try like a couple.
You can?
Yeah, like what I said 5 to 1, maybe like a couple drops would work.
I mean, you just paint over it once it's on.
Yeah,
I guess
put
that's
the
true
base
too.
texture on it.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I wouldn't even mess with
it.
mixing it. Just put paint over it once it's on the model.
Yeah.
They're all pre-colored with pigment, but you can paint right over them without even having to prime them.
I've tried mixing it a couple times. I really do like how the textures mix too.
Oh yeah, it's just paint,
Mm-hmm.
so it'll mix like any other paint. It has a lot of solids in it that
Yeah.
will, overcome your paint mixture pretty quick if you're not careful. But no, it works great.
Nice.
Want to zoom in tight on that?
Yep. Mo,
For
welcome
people,
in.
Again, I'm just hitting edges, but now we're getting that definition very, very quickly without smudging a lot of the actual work surface. Like I said, you just want to kind of take the side of the brush. So I'm actually touching the model where there isn't any paint, right? If you look, the paint comes about halfway up. So I'll put the bristle right over the wheel to the point where there isn't really any paint, and then I'll bring that painted part of the bristle over that edge like that. And that's what gives me that nice, clean, dry brushed edge, right? See if I can make it happen here. We're just kind of... So the only part the brush touches is that corner, right? Doesn't get paint everywhere. And you get a nice blended edge. So super easy, super clean. This is the ancient art of dry brushing and how important it is to not, consider this to be some sort of beginner's tool only, right? You can use this for the most complicated models, display or otherwise. And it's really just knowing your tool. Where can you get it? Because I can do this fuzzy edge along here I did.
Yeah.
right? The fuzzy edge along the top of here I did, and I can do clean, crisp edges with it too. So works really well. Now, the one thing that I can't do reliably is I can't dry brush these panel lines because they're very shallow and narrow. So I'm not going to get the brush in there and pull it without streaking paint across that flat surface. So we'll do that with the actual brush. We'll have to do that as a edge highlight normally would go. But I can get up in here and kind of...
Yazin's asking about the plans for the light on the top. Are you going to do some fun things with that?
Yeah, we'll probably do some OSL, some sort of shining lamp technique.
That'd be great.
You can pop out a zoom.
Cool.
All right.
I can't read the name because it blends in, but someone is asking if you can tell us what sorceries you cast to make pure titanium white that good.
What kind of sorceries?
So the funny thing about dealing with Lucifer is that he makes you sign an agreement that says we will not disclose the nature of the agreement. So Deals with the Devil Part 1.
Deals with the Devil Part 1.
The magic of Pro-Acryl started with our special white. And the goal was always to make a paint that felt super good to paint with. And so what does that mean? It means that it has to be usable out of the bottle. I can't have to be forced to work on a palette for, minutes, hours, days to get my paint to work the way I want it to. I need it to just work. And in order for that to happen, it means it also has to have quite a bit of intensity of pigment because I need it to just work. I need it to be opaque, right? And so that's really where we started, was trying to figure out, okay, how can we do that? Because most paints that have a lot of pigment in them have to have a much thicker medium. Because of the way that suspensions, aqueous suspensions like liquid acrylic work. You can't just put a bunch of pigment in a thin, watery suspension because the pigment falls to the bottom very quickly, right? You can imagine dumping sand into water, right? The sand particles just fall to the bottom of the glass. And that's what happens with pigment. So, we really just, that deal with the devil was to find a way to have what is a very lightweight paint that delivers a tremendous amount of pigment consistently without you having to mess with it much. And then we just applied it to every color in the line.
Iterator was asking about battle damage and how you, what some good methods would be for.
You'll see a lot of that come to life. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll be doing a lot of that here. For, battle damage, weathering, oil streaks, grease and grime, grit. We'll be doing all that. You can see how we started to set it up by the way we airbrushed and the way our shadows and our kind of modeled feel on here is not camo. It's just the dirt and the way the paint will be, right? But you can see that now with this dry brush, all that's coming into focus. Battle damage is really up to you as to how extreme you want to do it. If you want like a blown out tank that has the turret mantlet blown up and the turret popped off, then you can do some really amazing big heavy duty burn marks and things like that.
I think Iterator is looking for some good methods. How to add significant battle damage to a model is what I'm curious about. What are the best methods?
Okay, so explain to me what you mean adding. Through paint, or do you want to actually alter the model by like drilling holes in it for bullet holes and stuff? Because you can take a hobby drill.
Altering.
You can take a hobby drill and imagine drilling a small shallow hole here, and then take your hobby knife and kind of make the edges of that round hole irregular with cracks. So it looks like an impact crater. You can kind of dig in there and make it cone shaped instead of, a drill bit will just make a cylinder hole in something, which is too clean. Nothing bores a hole like that. maybe a laser, and then you could melt the edges with a hot needle or something, right? And make it look like a laser bored a hole. So there's all sorts of neat ways that you can alter the model. Most of them are like that. Take a knife and chip a V groove into edges so it makes it look like something hacked into it or ricocheted off of it. Things like that. We won't be doing any of that. I won't be doing it because we're already starting into the paint process here. So I'm too far along to alter the plastics.
Here's
with
a
battle
question
damage.
from...
I'll be painting it all and showing you how you don't have to alter the model to get the same effect.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we're gonna be this one. We'll definitely have a good section on the weathering for this coming up soon. Voldemort, I want to paint a texture on flat part of a figure. Every time I'm trying to create straight lines, I fail. How do you do it?
Straight lines.
Yeah, how do you...
like freehand straight lines?
I want to paint a texture on a flat part of a figure. Every time I'm trying to create straight lines, I fail. How do you do it?
Being able to set up the geometry of your brush pull is key, right? And what I mean by that is, let's take a paintbrush real quick.
Yeah.
And I go into this same faded green that we're using. You know, you can imagine if I've got the flat side of my hand here, it's kind of curved, but you get the drift, right? And I want to pull a straight line. If I use it like a pencil, right? If I'm going and I'm using we've talked about how you manipulate your hand with a pencil. You hold the some people hold the pencil different, but you're going to hold it usually with these three fingers: your index, your middle finger, and your thumb, right? And all three of them are going to move from like the wrist and your knuckles in order to, you know, write your name, right? So you know, Jason, right? And the problem is that a paintbrush is flexible, and so holding it that way makes it tough to pull a straight line, right? You're generally going to want to pull a curve. If you stabilize yourself and you pull from your wrist moves in an arc as it moves, right? It creates an arc. So you can see if I move from my wrist, it's going to make an arc, a 180-degree arc as I go across. So that's not going to pull a straight line. It will for a short instance, but it's going to put an arc to it. So what you want to do is I usually steeple my pinky on the surface, so my pinky sitting on my hand, and instead of using my wrist, I use my middle finger. My middle finger here will push the brush while my thumb and forefinger pull it, right? So it'll guide it, and then I can do straight lines. Okay? It's very thin, so you're not really seeing it. But see, now I can paint a straight line because my wrist isn't involved at all. My fingers will do linear motions better than the wrist, and it's because of the actual geometry of your wrist. Your wrist is a ball joint, and ball joints move on an arc, right? They don't move in a straight line. They do. It's a pivot. Whereas your fingers can be used, if you push with one and pull with the other and keep them in line, you can control that straight line more. So it's really just you getting your brush control down and being able to, again, steeple your finger on something as a stabilization point, and then eliminate your wrist. Don't use your wrist at all. Just use your fingers to pull through it. And you may have to do a little bit of it at a time, and then move, and then pick up the line again, and then pick up the line again, and pick up the line again, and do it in chunks. But you'll find that then at the end, you can kind of go and smooth it all over, and that'll help you pull straight lines.
Nice. And that's my TED Talk.
And that's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
You could probably start a TED Talk about how to paint straight lines.
Probably, yeah. You could just start a TED Talk about anything.
Ooh, Voldemort Sucks wants to know if you can do the same straight lines with an airbrush.
I mean, you can? Are you asking if I can or if you can? That's all a technique and a expertise thing. I can pull straight lines with an airbrush. I try not to. Because they're never going to be as exact as you want them. We showed yesterday as we were airbrushing me pulling some straight lines just to highlight how I'm painting an area. But they're fuzzy at the edges. So I feel like whenever I find myself wanting straight lines in paint, they want to be straight and clean, right? Like for graphics or
Yeah.
things that I'm doing or edge highlights or whatever. I don't want them to be fuzzy on the edges because then I have to thicken that line in order to tighten it up. So I am not usually doing that. We'll see t-shirt artists and things like that using the airbrush to pull straight lines all the time. But for us in the hobby, rarely. Unless, of course, you're using the airbrush for like camo, right? And you want to pull like a straight line like you're doing like jagged lightning style camo like you see on some modern ships and stuff, then you could use the airbrush to define that and pull the straight line, and then use the brush to clean it up and make it tight because you're not worried about the dimension of the line. Narrow lines and stuff, like what I was thinking we were talking about, that would be something on the airbrush that I don't think is... It's not that it doesn't have a place in the hobby. It's just not usually something you can pull off.
Mo wants to know if you're going to paint a pinup on this.
Oh, I don't know.
Good freehand tutorial.
Oh, boy. So again, that would have to be something we do prior to any of the weathering. So how long?
I see what you're saying because you're right. It has to be underneath.
Yeah,
you have. It's a good point to bring up because whenever you do something like that, you have to put it on the tank like now. The same way we're doing these edges.
Oh, yeah.
Because any of the scratches that go over the edges will go over the highlight of the edge and break this up, and I only want to paint the edges at one time, right? So if we paint like a pinup girl or something like a shark mouth or something on the turret, then we weather over the top of that because that paint would chip too. So you can't paint it later and after. That makes it weird. You can, it just creates more work for you because then you have to go re-weather that whole area you painted the stuff on. Right. So we could think about it. I don't have, a plan. I know what I want to do overall. Yeah. I was not going to do anything like that. I was going to do like some numbers and just some standard unit stripes on this thing. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a lot of space to do very technical freehand on it.
Yeah.
At a level that I'm interested in doing on stream. Because if I were to do like a Rosie the Riveter on the turret, it would take forever to do highly detailed stuff because it's so small. And I don't know that gives you a ton to work with as a viewer, because that's going to be something I can't tell anybody how to do. I'm going to say get good scrub will be that tutorial. Like, oh, you can't draw a half-naked lady in a bathing suit on the side of that turret, which is only about the size of my thumbnail. Get good scrub.
Tax Frost was asking about I think he might have emailed you, Jen?
About...
Remind us, Tax Frost.
Oh, the mega set. So the order, they contacted us so all my days are running together right now. I don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the beginning of this week because I was gone last week. They had it got stuck in customs. We sent them a document that they needed, and it should be now. They should have it. So once they unpack everything, they should be able to get it out to you.
Nice.
I love dry brushing.
Oh my gosh.
On vehicles. It's funny because vehicles are the one spot where dry brushing will have a place in my heart till the end of time. This work right here is so methodical, so relaxing for me. Because the effect it has immediately on the model is tremendous.
Well, and, sometimes you mentioned it earlier, it has been deemed sometimes a beginner, quote, tool, right?
But yeah, you got to be careful in our hobby, right? Because like anything, and I don't mean this in a malicious way, but when you have people who discover a thing like the hobby of painting, and they learn, right? And then they're told by their friends, oh, I'm going to use words that aren't real. Oh, sissy, move away from the baby painting, get to big boy painting. And then that becomes part of what they feel about their hobby is that, oh, I'm doing things wrong. I need to do big boy painting. And so then what do? They immediately pass on to new people that they're hobbying with that dry brushing's for sissies. And it creates this kind of peer pressure thing that goes along that makes it seem like certain paint styles are for idiots, and noobs. And that is not the case, right? I will put this up against anybody telling me that dry brushing is for sissies or noobs, right? Dry brushing is making this tank look amazing regardless. Like if you go to the world's top winning diorama artists for World War II, the IPMA that we went to, the Plastic Modelers Association, you saw some of those models, guaranteed 90 or more percent of those modelers use dry brushing on those tanks.
Yeah.
And you would not know it because they didn't just go brrr and dry brush the model as if that were finishing. No, dry brush is a technique that you use to get a particular thing done, and that particular thing done is easier and better done that way than any other way you do it. Because on a dirty ass tank like this, the little bit of texture that dry brushing gets is perfectly reasonable. It makes it feel like that edge is dirty and broken up, as opposed to if you painted a perfect lined edge on it, heavy metal style, you know, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because none of these edges would be perfect. They're all banged up and walked on and dirty, right? And so it has a place for a reason. So don't ever feel bad about those techniques. Speed paints, none of that. Let it, you know, they all have their place and do a really good job of what they do.
Yeah, and if something works for you and gives you the result that you like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Use it time and time again.
It hurts me so much when I see it, because I think of it as, you know, I'm just an observer, and I'm, you know, if I'm the person who, I'm not going to post a picture of my work because I'm new, but I look at all the other people who post their work, and I look at the comments that people write on those, and that would affect me as well.
Oh, heck yeah.
You know, there's so many people who are, you know, making comments about certain techniques not being good, you know, like, oh, you should move past that. That's a beginner technique.
Yep.
And it's just, it sucks because
It really
if
does.
it works for you and you feel good about it and you feel confident in doing it, then that's how you should paint.
A lot of good TED Talks today.
Yeah.
That was great. Do what you want, chat.
Yeah.
Art is
It's
chaos.
supposed to be fun.
Art
Right.
is chaos. You've got artists out there making ridiculous amounts of money for putting bananas on walls. So don't let anybody
know.
tell you there isn't a way to do it.
Definitely don't do that though, paint liquor.
Yeah, no eating the paint. I'm gonna go back up to this question. I thought this one was a interesting one. What are your thoughts on color shifting paints such like that from Turbo Dark? Gimmicky or cool?
Both. They can be used to do some really neat effects. I don't personally use color shift and effect paints because my whole painting style is based on controlling the idea and vision of light on my model with my own paint. Meaning that I want highlights to be exactly where I want them, shadows to be exactly where I want them. I paint still life. I paint photographs of three-dimensional objects, if you can think that way. That's the way I teach, that every model that we paint, right, everything we do is a photograph. It just happens to be of a three-dimensional object. It's not in motion. The light around it is not in motion. We could sit here and stare at this guy for 24 hours and the sun is not going to move. The light is always going to be off of his left shoulder, right? I can take him into any room in any building and the light will always be off of his left shoulder. If I were to have painted this with color shift or metallic paints or any other paint that has an effect quality to it, like a reflective material in it, or like the fact that there's multiple pigments that float around in the surface and make it color shift, right? Then any room that I take it into is going to make it look different. And so now I lose control over the object. If the lighting in the room is more yellow, then the model looks different, highly different. And so this is all, that's why I paint non-metallic more than anything else, because no matter if I turn this guy upside down, the dark spots are still dark. The light doesn't make the shadows any brighter than they would have been anyway. And the highlights stay the same. So that's my method. That's why you don't see me using them, but it is neither good nor bad. They can do some really amazing things. I've seen them put to tremendous use, especially on stuff like Zinch models in particular.
Yeah.
They can do some amazing Lord of Change color shift stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Marvel, Crisis Protocol, superhero stuff, all of that, I think is great. We make a fluorescent paint, which is technically a gimmick paint, because it's the way to get the brightest glow OSL style color on top of a white base. We don't really care about the glow in the dark part, but it still is really cool for stuff. So there's a time and place for everything.
Is it like the color shift paint is, I guess I've never actually seen it. I might just have to Google what it looks like. It's like a iridescent looking thing, or
Yeah. kind of like a pearl coat.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
They will have like random colors. Like it might have a blue and an orange to it, you know. And as you move it through the light, you'll see aspects of all of that.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I just Googled it. Okay, yeah.
We create that effect, you know, like
Yeah.
Dante's wings
Uh-huh.
are a color shift effect that I do without color shift paints.
Hmm.
Because again, it lets me control. I underpaint with a bunch of bright colors and then overpaint with white, right? And you get a pearlescent effect on the wings for him, which he's here, right? Someplace. Yeah. So here I've painted Dante's wings with a bunch of different colors underneath the white. So we've got dark blues and purples and jades and magentas and yellows and things like that. And then I put transparent white over the top. And it gives me the idea of iridescence, but those colors don't move. This model is always going to look the same, right? But like if I hold it like that, you get these kind of cool blue shadows, and then you turn it this way and they turn magenta, right? Or yellow or purple or whatever. So you can create the effect if that's what you're going for without using the shift paint. The shift paints are just really bitching because they let you do it by just swiping the paint on the model, and then they just come alive. So there's some neat effects that can be done with them.
Interesting. If you're all just now tuning in, welcome in. We are doing some dry brushing today on the vehicle. If you have questions, be sure to tag Monument Hobby so that I can see them and so that Jen can see them too.
With dry brushing, you can put a weight to your line. So if you can zoom in one more step, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you how you can see how the line weight changes from narrow on the left to thick on the right on both of these. So I'm pulling my light source over to the right on these fenders. And the way I do that, I'll do it again up here on this top section, right, is I will start with a little bit of a light brush stroke, and then I'll go heavier with my brush stroke as I get to the outside edge of the line. So it'll build up more as I go away from my starting point. So same thing on the top of this one down here, right? I'll just kind of lightly hit it, and then I'll spend more time with the paint on the end where I want the line to thicken up. And then I get a little bit of a blended line going on like you see across the front here. And that can help a lot with like positioning light and using the dry brush for more than just an edge highlight, but also a way to, like, you know, up top I want it to be thicker and diminish as it goes down into shadow. So you can do the same thing.
I learned a lot. I'm currently stuck in wet blending and loving the Dante. Is there anywhere a picture of it?
I'm looking on
our Instagram.
I think it's on Instagram.
Yeah, we did a couple of cool pictures on our Instagram.
It was a long time ago, though, right? You painted that?
Mm-hmm. It was a minute ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. I couldn't tell you when. Has it been a year? Wow.
Yes, definitely been a year.
That's crazy.
Looking.
I would be surprised if it wasn't. Man, I don't even remember. I can't even recall. Nice.
But yeah, it's
I
can show it up here
I
again.
found it. June 12th, 2023.
Oh,
On Instagram.
yeah.
2023, so even longer. Wow.
Year
that's
and a
great.
half.
Time flies when you're having fun, chat.
Yep.
Yeah, we put the wings from Yndrasta.
Which she's right there.
But she's up there too. I painted her too. So
you have some pretty cool color shift on her wings. Look at the back of that.
yeah, hers are really neat too. Hers were done in a very smudged painting style so that we could get a similar feel, but again, just kind of creating the natural feel of bird wings.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of reds and greens and purples and stuff in that too. And then we use yellow ochre and pale yellow over the top to give it more of a, brown or yellow owl feather feel, and the light on hers is supposed to be hitting from, I don't remember, like this angle here.
Yeah. That's cool.
So just different ways to do the exact same wing, because all we did was take another Yndrasta's wings and stick them behind his backpack, because they're some of the best wings GW's ever made.
They're really cool wings.
Yeah, so
Came out
but yeah,
great.
it's a great model. the Dante one, I wanted the gold to be a very cool gold. So it's done with, greens, the dark yellow green underneath. He's goes with my Blood Angel coloring. So all of my gold is a very kind of dull, tarnished gold that I start with greens on.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful I don't knock stuff off of here.
I know that's a
That's
that's
we have a new
dangerous
miniature
shelf.
shelf over here that holds miniatures for display, but it's getting full, and I need to align them by height so I can reach over some of them better. Because I've
It's
got
a
some that are
dangerous
pretty
shelf
tall.
over there. A lot of good stuff on that.
Turns out we paint some neat stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We do some cool stuff around here, chat. People are always asking, what do you do with the models when you're done? It's like we figure out what box to stick them in around the office. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cases and shelves around here.
I think there's going to be one day of a grand reprime. All of the
Oh,
models.
no.
All
wow.
of the models. We line them up. Every single model I find. The
What?
grand reprime.
Oh, my
Every-
God, chat.
Just
The
clean
heresy
slate
in
it.
this room is
Just
incredible.
clean slate it.
Is that going to be?
I mean, I guess that's one way. You never have to buy
Last
another model, right? Because you
That's-
can just
that'll
repaint the
be-
thousands you've already had.
That'll be my retribution.
Like, Mom, I need a new model. We got plenty of models at home.
That's right. Grand reprime.
Chat, we're hiring.
That would be horrible. But so fun and satisfying, right?
Chat, we're hiring.
No, even better. I won't even reprime them. I'll just do like a streak. Just cross them all. What if we
Oh
take the
my
time to
God,
full
dude.
Definitely
reprime?
Chris's last day that day.
That's right. That will be my last day.
That'd be how we know Chris won the lottery.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
comes in and starts priming all these models that are our display models. What happened
Hey-
to you, Chris?
hey,
oh,
Gabe.
I won the $100 million lottery.
Gabe, too bad there's no primer on Earth that can remove superglued rocks. All right, Gabe.
Wow. Gabe coming in with a heat.
We'll go find a bridge and push it
Where's
off of
Mama
it.
Sushi when we need her?
I know, right?
Yeah, where's Liz?
No, I don't need her in here.
Did you
either.
Did you talk to her about it?
Yeah,
Her coming on
she
stream? She had
enjoyed
a lot of
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, she enjoyed it. She liked. She definitely likes watching. My mom actually did watch Bob Ross back in the day,
Nice.
constantly.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was. She was like, yeah, it was very much the
We
same.
need to make shirts that are I watched Bob Ross before he was a meme.
Yeah. Hey, Gabe, you can leave. I know you can hear me through chat and through this wall.
Through this wall. Poor Gabe.
Poor Gabe. No, poor Gabe. What is this? No, not poor Gabe.
All he
Oh,
does for
my.
Chris, and this is the way Chris treats him.
No. Name 15 things he's done for me today.
15? It's always 15 with Chris. He's like, give me 15 reasons.
He thinks he's done for me.
Gabe does no.
I'll come in and I'll be, hey, Chris, we need to do this. And he goes, give me 15 reasons why.
It's a good number. If you give me,
We were talking about it yesterday on stream because he does that. And for a minute, I'm like, my
You
brain
start to
goes
think
to, I
about
don't think I
15.
can come up
If
with,
you-
wait a minute.
If you give me 15 good reasons, like I said yesterday, I will alter my state of mind and change immediately.
I mean, 15 reasons would be pretty convincing.
I wouldn't even think twice if I got 15 good reasons. I'd be like, "Yep."
The
there
problem
it
is, this is the boss telling you what to do, and it
That's-
catches the boss off guard, and I start thinking, I need 15.
Hey,
wait a minute.
That's funny. Okay, Gabriel, not the Gabe that I was just making fun of. I have a question about painting. Oh, look at the time.
Wait a
Minor
minute,
Hobbies is streaming.
We have two Gabes.
I really appreciate what you guys are doing with streams, and it makes me all the more stoked to get my first PA paints today. How do you
Awesome.
go about painting an off-white bone armor? That's great, by the way. Thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate it.
We have a really good, in our shorts on YouTube, we have a really good bone workup that is
Jordan did a
great.
great one. Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to do it. I personally like to do our black brown followed by a very heavy dry brush of our bone and then a light dry brush of ivory. then do like the brown wash over the top of that, and then re-dry brush with ivory if you're trying to go quick. That can go really quick for bone armor, actual skeletons, things like that. Now the dry brush will make a texture if you're doing that, but it allows you to get it done fast. Those same colors could be used with the brush and eliminate the texture portion of it. You would just have to mix them together. So black brown mixed with bone 50, you do black brown, then you do a mix of bone and black brown, then you do bone, then you do a mix of bone and ivory, then you do ivory, right? To get all that layering done. But either way would be great. But there are a lot of colors in our line that allow you to do that. Olive flesh works great as a bone color. You are not starved for great color combos to pull that off with.
So, Jason, when you're doing this
That's
dry
me.
brushing, when you do this, how much moisture do you remove from the dry brush?
All of it. This is dry brushing. I call it smudge brushing when you want the brush a little wet. There is no smudging. This is me wiping dang near all the paint off the brush. I am doing traditional, blow my 12-year-old me's mind seeing this happen for the first time dry brushing. I think I was about 12 when I learned from a model builder at probably Crown Hobby and Games in Dallas that this was a thing you could do.
Tax Frosty used a paper towel at the beginning of the stream today. Yeah.
That's his current
He's
paper
using his
towel.
That's it.
paper towel.
Ta-da!
So
That's it.
essentially, you're wicking a lot of the paint off.
Yeah, I'll show you. Right, so right now, right, it's starting to get crusty. So one of the things that I haven't talked about with dry brushing is that at some point, all of this paint starts to dry. And what happens is that now as you wipe it across a hard corner, you can imagine the dust that creates where the dry paint in here kind of turns into dust as you knock it against the model. And that dust will settle on the model. And it's such a fine dust that if you wipe it off, it almost looks like you painted it on there, right? So one of the things you probably want to do, and what we ought to do now, because like you see that big spot of dried paint there, like I'm not getting any paint on my fingers, that's how dry the brush is. I'll probably rinse my brush for the first time. This is the first time I put the brush in water today since the very beginning.
55 minutes in.
Right?
That's right.
So is it 55 minutes in? I'm wetting my brush for the first time since we started, right? And so that'll get all the paint out of it and clean it back to normal again, right? Which is funny to say because we've been not actually clean, but I will get it wet, make sure that all the paint's removed from it, and now we're starting kind of fresh again. But even then, the dampness on the brush I kind of want all gone. I will go and put more paint on it. So now my seasoning, like I spoke about in the beginning, is gone. I just washed away all the paint in the brush, so it's no longer seasoned. So I get a lot of paint on there, and then just take it all off. Now you got to be careful with paper towels. A lot of people don't like the paper towel method because if you rub it in the same area, you start getting the fiber of the paper towel into the brush, and that can create texture. So just be careful and smart. Use a light touch. But you see, it's barely putting any paint out at all on the paper towel, and yet when I come over here, it'll brighten up all these lines. If I hit this hook up here, still plenty of good definition going on. That edge, all that.
Iterator said I'm OCD about wasting paint, so I stress about most of the paint being on the paper towel.
Trust me, it took me forever as a kid because I had to buy this out of my allowance, man. That was not fun. Right? Notice how my brush stroke was a little heavy here, so I have a little bit of a streak. I'll wipe what I can off, but my dry brush hit that soft edge since it's not a hard corner, and I didn't compensate in my head, and so my brush stroke left a little paint coming down like that. On this, it won't be a big deal, but you got to be careful if you were dry brushing skin or something that you don't do that so that it doesn't create areas of color that are, because this is not a hard corner across here. So I have to use the very side of the brush and not do very large strokes. I'm actually kind of pulling along the edge here as opposed to completely perpendicular to it, more parallel to the edge.
Nice.
And very soft. And it won't get very bright because there's not a hard edge there to take the paint off, but it will still create a highlight. And that's true of like this side right here too. More pulling down the edge as opposed to across it.
I'm sorry, Jason. Can you repeat that last part you just said about how you did that surface of dry brush right there, that rounded one?
So when you have you don't have a sharp corner, you've got a rounded corner. In order to still create a highlight across that edge, like over here on this side of the turret, I want to make sure that instead of like all of these edges that are hard 90-degree corners, I've been pulling perpendicular to it, just straight over it. And that's what leaves the paint. Here, if I do that, I'll get a brush stroke because there's no edge to stop, right? So I want to pull along the bend in the turret. So now I'm going this way across it as opposed to this way. And it'll still highlight that edge. It just will keep the paint aligned along that plane as opposed to pulling brush strokes down. Right? So I still get a highlight on a soft edge. It'll look different because it's not going to take as much paint off my brush, but that's exactly what the world would look like anyway. This would not deliver a hard, shiny edge because it's not a hard, shiny corner.
Nice. No, that's perfect. Thank you.
But you remember, I took all the paint off the brush. We haven't gotten any more paint on it. I'm still going.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't need a lot of paint on the brush to dry brush. And that's where a lot of people make the mistake, is they feel like they need to be able to feel like there's a lot of paint on there. There's hardly any paint on this thing. And we're still going. Energizer bunnying it here with a brush that was damn near empty and didn't have any paint on it at all.
Yeah. What's a good PA dark brown to use as a base for leather? Asked Bellicor.
Oh boy. I mean, all of our browns are great. Dark umber. My favorite for all my leathers is dark umber into light umber into olive flesh, and then go back over that with brown transparent.
Yeah.
It just works like a champ.
You can see that work up too. I think Jordan did something very similar in our transparent video.
Yep.
Tax Frost has got another question. I've got another question about varnishing. I use Vallejo matte varnish, but I don't have the Procro one yet. And if I spray from a longer distance, it gets dusty. And if I spray too close, it gets wet, thicker. It gets satin/glossy. Should it be diluted? What's wrong?
The varnish is becoming satin. A matte varnish will start to satin out if you thin it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So be careful not to thin. Even with like airbrush thinner, generally, I don't recommend thinning varnishes. I'm not familiar as much with their varnish anymore, so I can't tell you specifically what may be happening, but that's what sounds like to be the case. Is it maybe it's too thin?
Is that like in a can?
Probably an airbrush, I think he said.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to thin it if it were a spray.
Right. Pop Chicken, have you announced a rough time frame for the new colors, including Eclectic Salmon?
There is no Eclectic Salmon, so no. We are not doing Eclectic Salmon this go-round. That has to be waiting for expansion set 5. Cool your toots.
Is it going to be named Eclectic Salmon?
I hope so, yes. I will probably name it Eclectic Salmon. Or that'll be the little curvature.
Yeah, I was going to say
That's
salmon maybe is fine.
Can that label just be a big old salmon?
It'll be eclectic.
The big salmon label.
I'm adding new paint now. Again, just very light strokes to make sure I'm not overdoing my edges. Pulling paint where I don't want it. Typically trying to keep the dry brush moving in the same direction across a surface. So here I'm going from what is our top to bottom, or the entirety of the lamp. Then as I come over here, I still want to go and create that same top to bottom effect. One big thing to always note with it, dry brushing, is don't shift directions. Unless you just have to pick up an edge that you really want to highlight. I see a lot of people who will, dry brush, say this front area here, and they'll do like this, and then they'll also come back this way, right? So they'll hit the model here and go this direction. Well, you don't want to do that, because what dry brushing is doing is also setting up your lighting direction, right? It's only the highlighting the tops of these rivets or these bolts here, right?
Yeah.
If I go the other direction, it highlights the bottom. Now it looks silly. So this is helping you set your light up on the model at the same time. So you'll notice the whole time I'm dry brushing, I'm going top to bottom on all of this.
Yeah. Nice.
Getting close.
Yeah, just barely any paint on there.
Oh yeah, hardly any at all.
That's all you need.
Yeah, too much paint, you wind up causing yourself all sorts of problems, because you will see brush strokes, and that's not what we're trying to create here. The key to dry brushing is it shouldn't even look like you've really painted much, if anything, right?
It's just catching those little areas for light.
Kind of the magic of it is that it looks so natural
Yeah.
when you do it right.
Looks like lighting. Looks like it's being hit with some light.
Yeah. Why it blows so many new painters' minds when they see it happen, because you base paint a model, do a wash on it, and then hit it with a dry brush, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
my whole model's done. I'm a pro painter. And as you're seeing, if you take your time with dry brushing, you don't get too speedy.
Yep.
Then you can do really, really good work. I'm doing a cylindrical non-metallic shine on that strut.
Mm-hmm. Welcome in, everybody. As you're seeing, we are continuing with the vehicle today. Did some dry brushing today. Yesterday we did the airbrushing of the panels. Now we're here.
It's only taken us 2 weeks. That's his next line.
It's only been 50 streams of this dry brushing.
We started this yesterday.
It is a thing that it is a I don't even know what I'm gonna say. It's not calling out the time, I swear.
We just started this yesterday, Christopher.
We did. It's the top of the hour. That's what it is. It's the welcome. If you're just now joining us, welcome.
Hold this gun because it's not glued in place. It pivots.
Oh.
Jason started this model in early 2025.
He did.
You bastards. While they are not lying, it doesn't make it sound good for me.
It's been 4 years painting this vehicle, chat.
That is not even remotely true.
4 years.
I just started it. They know it. The video captures the date and time from yesterday.
That's right.
Back in 1974, when we started this dry brushing, the world was much different, yet in many ways the same.
Back in my day. I'm a dry brush now.
Pepperidge
That's how long it's
Farm
been.
remembers.
I'm a dry brush now.
Bastages. Thought we were friends. Chat, we're hiring.
We're hired, Jet. We're looking for someone to paint faster.
Oh! Oh! Bastards.
It's okay. Jason said he'd finish this up today entirely, so it's been cool. Can't even say that with a straight face. Chris, add some aged video effects to this one. Maybe I will. Here's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to put a blur effect on this this one in particular. This vehicle. I'll do like a grime like projector overlay, and then make him sound like an old timey radio host.
And now, folks, we use the dry brushing technique. Brought to you from Dainty Doo.
Dainty Doo.
Today's show is sponsored by Dainty Doo Delectables. Keep your family delightfully, delectably deluded with Dainty Doo Delectables.
And tomorrow the news.
And now, the Shadow Knows.
And now, Nosferatu.
This paint job's taking so long, Jason doesn't have to add any weathering.
I hate you people.
Oh, wow.
I hate you people. I thought I had friends here. I really thought I had friends here.
Hello,
Delusion.
traveler.
I've been
Stay
eating
a while,
Dainty Doos
and remember.
Delectables.
Yeah, stay a while.
Try some of our lovely lead-based American source paint.
100% lead.
Paint is better with lead.
Now with more lead.
It's like the old Ren and Stimpy commercials. It's glass.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's bag of glass.
Ren and Stimpy, man, that show
The bag of glass was
got
SNL.
away with so
What's that?
much.
The bag of glass was SNL from the 70s.
Oh, was it?
Oh, the bag of glass, yeah.
Ren and Stimpy did like don't pee on the fence and log.
It's log. Oh, Mo's asking, Jason, are you going to do a heat effect on the main gun?
We'll do soot at the end.
You know, for another tutorial, of course.
You know, one part that drives me bananas in our hobby is that so many people think that the magenta blue, heat distorted end of a barrel is at the end of the barrel. It is not. The heat distortion doesn't happen at the end of the exhaust. Like nowadays, they sell these weird exhaust tips for cars that I see on like all the Too Fast, Too Furious cars in town, where the exhaust tip is blued, and orange and magenta and blued and all that. It looks really cool, and that's not how that works. The bluing happens at the point of where the header connects to the engine block, because that's where all the
heat
is. So the barrel on this gun would not blue ever. Because the chamber that creates all the heat is inside the turret, right?
No,
where the explosive part happens.
The light would,
and then the soot that comes out the end as the as the casing or as the shell comes out. There's smoke that comes out here, right? And so it will blacken along the edge of the or the end of the barrel. So we'll do that for sure.
Grant said everyone knows the only car modifications that work are stickers.
Yes. Especially the stickers of like gunshot holes.
Yes. Yes. But it doesn't look as cool that way.
Exactly.
You're putting reality into my fantasy.
Stop putting your reality into my fantasy. I've said this all along, chat. There are certain things you won't catch me doing because, and I'm a fan, don't put your reality in my fantasy. There are certain things that my brain can't wrap itself around because I've lived in a world where that's not how that works. So I get to be the enemy of fun every now and then.
The enemy of fun.
And say, nope, that's not how that works. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting the bluing on the end of the barrel.
Just not doing it.
Not doing it, chat. Can't make me. Not how that works.
Just not doing it. Now maybe light. Like if it was coming out of if it was firing, there might be some light, but then you'd have to make the whole thing light up because then everything would reflect.
Christopher?
Which we're not doing.
Yeah, Christopher, I need you to stop coming up with these horrible ideas.
It would be kind of cool if you had
will
like
latch onto them. I don't know if you've met Chat before.
I know. I just would.
But now Chat will be telling me to put LEDs in all of our models.
It'd be cool to have like, a resin like smoky bit coming out of it though, like it's firing.
No, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't.
CBS 569 wants to know, what kind of dry brushes are you using, sir?
I am using our DA2. So it is our Monument Hobbies Pro Synthetic DA2. It is the angled dry brush, right? And it's about a, I don't know, like a 9 or 10 millimeter wide, probably 8, 9 millimeter wide. Angled dry brush, so I can get into tight spots with it, right? It allows me to get, like the corner in there of the brush and then still be able to pull this edge without hitting the turret. So the angled dry brushes are fantastic for what you've just seen me do, which is all this hard surface work on a tank. And we're pretty much done with the dry brushing. And you can see how now by livening up that edge on all of our panels with our airbrushing, I mean, like I told you yesterday, that by the time you got to the point where we were done with dry brushing this tank, chat, that you would wind up with a tank that you could base, paint the details, and be finished.
Look at that.
Right? So we spent time yesterday airbrushing, a little bit of time today dry brushing, and you have a tank that could be considered done if you're trying to get stuff on the table quickly. Now we're going to continue detailing to show you lots of other things. I've missed a whole bunch of dry brushing here on the front. Lower portion of the hull.
CVS, awesome. Thank you so much. CVS said, I'll be picking up a set. Just purchased your whole line of paints. They are fantastic.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thank you so
nice.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll love our dry brushes. The set comes with 5 brushes. The 2 angled dry brushes. There's this big one and one that's a little bit smaller. And then you've got the 3 round domed dry brushes that are great for smudge work and more overall coverage. I mean, you could paint, we've shown painting a vehicle just with the domed dry brushes.
Oh, yeah.
And no airbrush, no nothing. That can work too.
They are great.
Gilded brush, I think it is.
Yes, Gilded Brush. It is a model from Dust 1947.
Dust Tactics.
Dust Tactics. It's a tank walker, I believe.
M4A2, whatever they've decided they call it, the Duster, or whatever name they've given it.
Tank walker because there's a tank.
It's a walking tank. Walker. So there you go.
Has legs.
It's a weird Stuart body, Sherman-ish turret, and then legs. So I love these. I love the whole Dust aesthetic. It's great.
Very, very cool model.
Very nice.
All it is dust in the studio.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, now your brush. Brush. We have to get these panel lines that the dry brush won't do. Right, so now we come back in, and we want to be careful with this. We have to do very light brush pressure as we do this because the dry brush won't put the paint on here at like full intensity, right? So we want to, I'm just going to put it on this back edge so it matches. This is probably not right for the light, but I want to just lightly pull these edges here. Can't get a dry brush in there reliably. Just do it with the brush.
So are you just essentially going back and hitting certain
spots? These surfaces that the dry brush can't reach reliably, I've got to do a traditional edge highlight on. And I'm just making sure that I'm doing a very light brush stroke. This is doing that straight line pull that we talked about a little bit earlier. Right. So then I get those edges high. You want to pop in one more zoom?
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
And I'll hit each line a couple times so that I'm avoiding going too bright on the first stroke, but that I can build it up over the length. So I ran a line, from down here all the way up to the top of this panel. And then I'll come back and separate that about 50% of the line and pull a second stroke in there. And now it gives me that faded line look. Then same thing over here, just kind of very lightly using the tip of the brush. Grab that edge. And then once I've got it done, then come back and on the second upper half of it, go ahead with a little bit more pressure. That'll make this line thicken up for the top half. and makes it look faded. It's not, right? But because it's a thinner line down here and then thicker up here, it makes it look like it blends downward. We'll just do that on all these.
You saying they are not rebranded brushes, they are our brushes.
We don't rebrand anything other than, I mean, technically we don't rebrand anything, but our cups we don't design. It's the only thing we don't really design our own.
Hyper Bunny's asking, forgive me if this has already been asked, if one was going to assemble a John Blanche set similar to Army Painters, one with existing Pro Acrylic colors, which ones would you choose? I'm intrigued by the idea of the palette, but don't prefer their paints.
So my brutal honesty is I have no idea what colors are in there. We'd have to look it up, but it's kind of a Zorn palette. So yellow ochre, burnt red, red oxide, orange oxide, satin black. Obviously you want a black, you know, basically colors outside of green and blue, right? Browns, reds.
It's this one.
Stuff like that. They have a green in there, looks like. Payne's gray. Right? Ivory. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking
There's
at
nothing special about that at all.
Names.
Oh,
yeah.
The names, yeah. Wacky.
Yeah, all those colors are in our line.
Kimberly said, you call that a tank walker, Christopher? That's so out of left field. What do you call one of those things that grates cheese? Probably something ridiculous.
Like a cheese grater.
A cheesy grate. A grater of the cheese.
Chris is crazy like that. He just makes names up. No rhyme or reason to it.
I'm the most sane person in the room.
He likes to think that too.
Right, Chris? What?
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. This side.
So, again, Jason, is there any rhyme and reason behind the selected edge highlighting you're doing here?
Rhyme or reason? How do you mean?
I guess I would say, are you considering the point of light when you're doing this as well?
To some extent.
Okay.
You know, we're doing just a top-down lighting on this vehicle. I'm not doing any kind of directed light, so there's nothing super specific about it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of blending my lines to be thinner towards the bottom.
Oh, yeah. I actually believe Christopher is the most sane person in the room. I mean, everyone else has to put up with him. Hey, yo. Game delay? You're welcome on that. I read that out loud.
Gilded Brush Studios wants to know if they still make the dust models. Feel like I haven't seen them in a long time. It would be fun to paint some up.
You can still find them from time to time on like eBay. I've had these since there was a distributor called E-Models that used to distribute them. We had a box of these that they sent us eons ago. We've got two of the big
some cool
German stuff. Like they've got dual 88s on a flak platform that point straight forward. We got some crazy models. It would be a lot of fun to paint them over time. I got them as ways to be able to play like Weird War versions of Bolt Action.
Yeah.
Right? When the Conflict 47 stuff first was coming out, it never really took off, unfortunately. But I have a lot of the Russian dust model. It was funny that the dust models were so much better than anything they came out with for Conflict 47. But since, you know, the guys at Bolt Action don't care, you can use whatever models you want. It was just really nice. So, you know, they have like the Russian dust tactics have got these heavy infantry that are kind of in very Maschinenkrieger style outfits, like heavy armor with big, you know, like almost like dive bell helmet lids, very Russian, very heavy, you know, steel stomping across the battlefield, holding big chain guns and stuff. And so I cut all the stars. They had Russian stars, embossed on the chest plates and the visors. I shaved all those off and I made them my French because the roundness of them felt very French. So I made them French heavy infantry because I've got an early war French army for bolt action, and then I have all these Russian dust tactics models that turn that French army into a weird war army by adding like crazy walkers and heavy infantry and stuff like that. So a lot of fun. I love the models. I'm obviously a big World War II armor buff. I've been building scale models forever. And so being able to have something like this is just super cool. Because like I said, we can apply all these, scale modeling techniques in a way that you don't normally get to. Because there's only so many Panthers and Shermans and Tigers you can do before they're all the same. But put legs on them.
It's a whole
and like
new
we were
world.
talking about before with, don't let your reality get in the way of my fantasy. Now you can do something that you wouldn't be able to necessarily do. Not that you couldn't, but if you're trying to, enjoy a tank, like a Sherman tank, and you're doing it in the midst of a bunch of people who are, historical tank buffs, then you're not going to be able to get away with the same stuff you can as if I hand you this guy. And this guy's this crazy walker tank, and now all of a sudden, all reasonable historic accuracy is out the door. Because guess what? Go don't walk.
That's right.
So
what?
Hey, I know, Chris. It's a tough reality we live in.
Do you go for decals more than freehand?
I freehand everything. I never use decals.
Okay.
The only decals. It's funny because the only decals I've considered using in the last, I don't know, 30 years or so are those ones for the Starfleet battles, the Enterprise, the ones that we got for all the people in the office.
Yeah.
We got decals because I found a company that does custom decals for the scale Star Trek models, and we did them named for all the people in the office. Is there a Max Sushi one? There might be.
It might have been before me.
It might have been before sushi time.
Well, before time. BC.
Before Chris.
Call that BS, before sushi.
Whoa! Yeah, I've never tried a decal. I could see definitely like the simple shapes. I definitely would be more prone to try to do some freehand, but because I was thinking like, if you had like one of those pinup style decals, you could do that if you didn't want to freehand something super super small. But I don't even know if those exist. I'm sure they do.
Grant said, "Where's my Starfleet battleship game thingy? Dibs on tribbles."
There's no tribbles. We don't allow tribbles. I have all the rules in my office, by the way.
Oh, the rules? Like for
Starfleet battles, yeah.
I was about to say for the company?
The command.
We've got the rules.
The rules for the company are also in my office. Actually, the rules for the company travel around with Jen and I. Wherever we are, that's where they are.
That's the rule.
Some might say we make it up as we go. We like to think we improvise for the betterment of others.
Nice.
We do it all for you, Chris.
No improvising.
Nice.
It's all been in our head the whole time.
Nice.
Nobody can prove otherwise.
This is also true. This is also true.
Take it till you make it. Which is not great advice sometimes. But sometimes it is.
All right. I feel like we've got a good edging done for the tank. Booyah. And it supersedes your standard dry brushing because we've been able to keep it just to those edges. So now, of course, we've got some shine. Now we do have to make the determination, like, what else do we want to do here before we start weathering?
So is that, now at this point, is this the decal, the stripes, that step essentially?
This is the time where we have to start thinking of anything we would add that might have been on the tank before the weathering hit, right? Yeah. And we've baked some weathering in with the way we airbrushed it, so it already looks dirty. So we've already kind of defeated that. I wasn't planning on doing anything other than like some white stripes, yellow. A lot of times you would have like a white stripes and then like a yellow number on the turret, for what the tank was. So that was my goal.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're going to stay with that.
Sure. You keep it simple, right?
Yeah, just keep it simple. Don't you know?
Otherwise, you're right. It sometimes just gets too
Yeah, don't you
Too
know?
crazy.
Don't you know? So I think I'm going to do 2 diagonal white lines on the side of the one on the each side of the hull, and I will do some white details at the bottom of the shin plates or knee guards or whatever the heck that is.
What is that? Yeah.
And then we'll do a numeric. We need to figure out a number we want to put on him on the side
We have to figure out a number?
of the turret.
Hmm.
And generally, they're only numbered on one side, so we'll do it on this side because it's open and free of gas can. Do that. And then that'll really be it. There's not a need for anything on the back. They didn't really do anything on the back of the tank. Nobody cared.
All right,
If you're seeing the back of the tank, they're already dead.
Here comes the numbers.
Yep.
I knew it.
As
69.
expected.
That's the first one. There it is. 42060. How about 911?
I really like 42. 42 is always the right answer. We could do a big 4 with a small 2
I was literally just thinking 42. Why was I thinking 42?
because that's the answer, the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
Not even kidding. I was totally thinking 42.
Gilded Brush says no weathering. Well, you have to do all of your numerics before you do your weathering because you have to think that everything painted on the tank gets weathered with the tank. So you have to put your brain in the sense of if you do your decals last, if you do your lettering last, your lettering and your decals are clean, and then you have to re-weather over the top of them to match what you did below, and now you're adding color to the weathering you put below, which could offset and create darkness where you didn't want things like that. So you'll hear me say a lot of the time that you want to paint a model as if it's brand new off the assembly line in a mental capacity, right? You want to think of it as, okay, how would it look when it was new? Paint that, and then weather that. Because the weathering happens to all of that simultaneously. The original painted numerics, the lights, the decal, everything that's on it gets weathered over time. You're not going to find very much other than like whitewashing and camouflage that would have been painted on later that you could get away with like doing whitewashing over a weathered tank, right? Because you can imagine like it was weathered and then winter came and they sponged whitewash all over the tank to give it some camo. You can do things like that, but if you're really going for it, paint it like it's new and then weather it. Now, we've cheated that because our airbrushing method that we showed you was a way to get the weathering started early by dropping darkness to low areas as if, rain and dirt and everything, gravity pulls that down. So we've already got our highlighting done. So some of what we'll add here, we will have to go back and weather to match the level of weathering that we have on the tank right now. So we're already causing ourselves a little bit of an issue, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Not too big a deal. Yeah, or you could just leave your model outside in a storm. Yes, and then varnish. Yes.
I don't know about this Grant guy. I'm just going to say it. I did. Boom.
Yeah, because if you try to paint things or put decals over your weathered model, it causes you all sorts of pain and grief. You'll be like, oh, I had the weathering so perfect, and then you look at it and you go, what's it missing? Oh, it's missing all the things.
It's missing all the things.
Missing all the stuff, dang it. All right, so
We're gonna
let's get some warm gray. I love warm gray as the backdrop for anything I do white on tanks that are weathered, because warm gray is just a dirty gray. It feels like the color in the ring around your tub. Everybody just went collectively, ugh.
That was the first thing that came to your mind.
What's that?
The ring around the tub?
The dirt?
The
In
dirt?
like a basin,
Yeah.
as it settles. That's what warm gray is. It's that color. Huh?
Are you going to do 42?
I am, but that'll be in yellow on the turret.
Okay. So we're going with the number 42, chat.
We're going with the number 42, yes. I'm going to put it a little forward, our stripe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to start about here.
Gilded Brush Studios, I think that he said he would be doing some of that.
After the stripes and such.
What's that?
Just the weathering and the battle worn stuff. You have to, kind of do this step before that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We're doing tons of weathering. I will be doing oil streaks, oxidation. We'll do the whole spiel. I'm not going to overdo it, but I'm going to do enough to give everybody an idea of how you can use things like noosh to achieve some amazing weathering results. new ways to use, well, not maybe new ways to use noosh, but redefine for you the many ways to use noosh.
Noosh is great. If you haven't used it, chat, go play with it. It is fun.
Ghost Hunter is asking for a Drop It Like It's Hot remix called Paint It Like It's New.
Paint it like it's
And,
new.
and now
Paint
I
it like
really
it's new.
need someone to write a rap for Jason.
Paint it like
Paint,
it's new.
paint it like it's new. Paint it like it's new.
Yep.
Okay, so white slanted stripe on there.
What about the jerry can?
It'll be red. And I'll hand paint the strap across it in either the body green again or black or something like that.
Bird ploops.
Well,
But it'll
was-
be brush painted.
Welch was asking if you should do that first.
What, paint the jerry can?
Yeah. It's not really affected by any of
So
it.
the jerry can's its own thing, right?
But
So
it
it
would
could
be weathered.
the jerry can could be new, strapped onto a dirty tank, which could give us some flexibility to put a really bright, splash of color on it and really tell a story with, they just replaced the gas can.
That's yeah. Like
So I
fresh
generally
gas
wouldn't
can.
do that until the rest of the tank is done. It lets me formulate the picture that I want and that I have in my head for the rest of the tank. And then the jerry can be done and weathered on its own since it's enough apart from the rest of the tank. Nothing I do is going to be so sloppy that I wouldn't be able to weather it, and do all that by itself. All right, so I have to think in terms of like how far. I'm about a 1/4 inch and about a 1/2 inch, right? Yep, I did that right. So I'm about a 1/4 inch. I need paint. What I was just talking about in my head is that my line starts about a 1/4 inch away from there, about like that, and then goes to about a 1/2 inch away from that vertical line. And I'll just, again, just like I told you earlier, just pull a straight line along that slant. So, and then how thick is it? About a 1/4 inch. Okay.
Jenny, you gonna wrap that?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I won't wrap it, but I'll say it like a sonnet. When the plastic's looking gray, yeah. Paint it like it's new. Paint it like it's new. Paint it like it's new. When the mini's looking crisp, yeah. Hit it with some noosh. Hit it with some noosh. Hit it with some noosh.
Boots, cats. Boots,
Yeah,
cats.
yep.
Boots, cats. Boots, cats.
Paint. No, not paint like it. That's Papa Chicken. Papa Chicken? Great job.
Great job.
Good job, Puff Chicken. I like that one.
Don't go change.
Hearts. Oh, I saw so many hearts in chat. What? There you go. Lots of hearts for you.
We had someone called Orky Fish Meat. If someone's new to airbrushing, should they go all out and get the $200 or get a starter one?
There's a lot of hot takes on this.
Dang.
I'm a fan of doing what you want to afford, whatever your wallet wants to afford,
Yeah.
and see how dedicated you are once you actually do some airbrushing, right? Once you get some airbrushing under your belt, and see if you like it. I'm a big fan of attacking it pragmatically. That's just kind of who I am anyway.
I can tell you, I tried to buy a really, really, really cheap one a long time ago on Amazon, and it don't work like that.
It's hard to start with a tool that can't do the job.
Yeah.
So you just have to be careful in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that whatever you do, buy something that, you want to afford. So if you have the $200 and you're looking
Yeah.
forward to airbrushing, you feel like you're going to be excited about it, then there's no reason not to spend $200. If cash is strapped, get one of the Masters $100, $150 for everything sets on Amazon. It will teach you how to airbrush.
Yeah.
Right. It will not necessarily. So with those, it's a coin flip, right? It's kind of like pulling the arm on a one-arm bandit. It's like you may get a airbrush that lasts you forever. You may get one that lasts you for a week, right? But you will be able to learn to airbrush and get a feel of it and find your comfort level no matter where you start. And then you can decide, okay, now it's valuable to me. I will buy another airbrush. In those kits that are cheap, you'll get a compressor that will probably last you a while. The airbrush itself may give you problems, but you can reduce it to just being your primer airbrush and you just prime your models with it. And then buy yourself a step-up airbrush that still works off that same compressor, but then will take you further. That's usually my suggestion. Do I want to get crazy and do something here like DAGs? That would be kind of cool, huh?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it like this.
Get crazy, man. Bloodwater says, okay, hear me out.
Freehand. I never listen after they say that.
I know. It's not a great way to
generally tune out right at this point.
A freehand image. A freehand image of the Chrome texture trainer over the words, Bob, yeah, his turret, like a World War II bomber pinup. Send us the decal. We'll put it on it.
No, we won't.
We won't.
No, we won't.
See, I did it again, chat. The collective we. You see that? I was explaining that to Jason the other day.
He was explaining that to me the other day.
It's very interesting.
He's not lying.
Yeah.
I stopped listening to him the same way I stopped listening to Walrus, too.
So
Christopher comes to my door a lot, and he says, okay, hear me out.
Here's the deal.
I got 15 reasons why.
That's when he goes, give me 15 reasons why we shouldn't do this crazy idea I have.
If you want 15 reasons,
I'm going to do it unless you can give me 15 reasons not to.
I will come up with 15 reasons. They will all be extremely relevant and ridiculous, but I will give them. Jason was having a hard time when I was saying that we are painting this model. We are.
Like, wait.
We all are painting this model together with Jason.
We are experiencing it.
What he was doing was stealing my thunder. That's what he was doing.
We as the collective presence of which chat is.
Why socialism doesn't work.
we the people. We
one
the
of us
chat.
paints the dang model, and everybody else gets the credit.
We are mentally supporting your energy.
We're all in this together. It's like, I mean, we may as well.
Some of us are just more in this than others, is what it is.
Yeah.
I've seen
we're all in this together. Just some of us are a little more into it.
Christopher also refers himself as we, like Gollum. That is true. I do tend to do that sometimes.
That's true. Panic Bomb said this model wouldn't get painted if it wasn't for us.
Right?
Does Chris hear the voices too?
Oh yeah, I am the voices.
Chat, we're hiring.
I like
we're hiring.
that.
We're hiring a lot of things. We're hiring a new Chris. We're hiring a new chat.
Hey.
We're hiring, and you heard him, chat. We're hiring chat. There it is. That's what we came to.
They're trying to steal the effort on my paint job.
No, it's a mindset, Jason. We are painting this together. That's right, chat. There it is. I wish I had a super zoom on the face, but I don't yet. That's round 3 of Dave's. I will get one, chat. I'm gonna get a super zoom on those eyes.
I knew someone was gonna come back with it. Deadbeat's got it. We get paid?
You do not get paid.
You do every day.
I actually pay
free
Monument.
Tutorials. 5 days a week.
That is true.
Get free tutorials, chat. Exactly what you get.
You get paid in tutorials and bad jokes.
And also bad jokes. Yes, no one can deny.
Disappointed Jason doesn't disappoint.
Disappointed Jason.
Always delivers.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
That's what my dad tells me all the time.
Christopher, we need to have a talk.
No. He's a good man. Is there a coupon for those bad jokes? No. They're free.
There's also not a return policy.
No,
yeah,
no
you
returns.
get what you get.
I'll take bright neutral gray. Just kind of swipe it down from the top. These would have been probably painted on with what do you call it? Stencil, and not hand painted in most cases. But I'm still going to give it a texture. I want all my brush strokes going in the same direction to fill in. So it gives it a little bit of ability for me to turn it into a more worn looking deal when we weather it.
Mm-hmm. Remind me, what color is that, Jason?
This is bright neutral gray. We used warm gray as the basis. Bright neutral gray, which is acting as, kind of a dirty white. You could do something like ivory here if you wanted to. I kind of like to just use the various grays in our line. And I'm pulling it in just a hair from the outer line that the darker gray makes, so that the darker gray becomes kind of an outline for this.
Sugar Rush said when I was in the army, they just handed me a spray can and told me to make it look good. That's what we do to Jason every day.
Except I don't have a pension.
That felt real,
All I
man.
get is dishonorably discharged at the end of the 2-hour session. That's what I get every day.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, Sugar Rush was kidding. Jason was not. Oh, man, that's funny. Here's a good one from Tax Frost. Can you please explain the pros and cons of jelly medium in paints and the Pro-Acryl medium that is used in your paints? Because Pro-Acryl flows much better.
So jelly medium goes better with peanut butter.
I was just about to say, it's like, ooh, jelly medium.
And
It's funny. We talked about this at the
is why
top
we
of
say don't eat
the
paint.
top of the stream too. Okay, so the deal with what we call aqueous suspensions, which is what liquid acrylic paint is that you're putting a bunch of solid material in form of pigment into a liquid base, and that liquid base has lots of different chemicals in it. It's water as a solvent, petroleum products that help to act as the carrier for the acrylic polyurethanes, and so now you've got this amalgam of fluid that is supposed to hold these solid particles of pigment in it. The thicker that fluid is, the more like a gel, right? Because nobody really uses a gel medium in acrylic paint that I know of in the hobby. A gel medium, by its definition, is a medium that you add to acrylic paint. An acrylic gel medium is a medium that you add to acrylic paint to make it look like an oil when it dries. It peaks and has a three-dimensional texture to it. So when you're painting canvas, it gives life to acrylics. Acrylics, when you paint them on canvas, dry flat. And when you paint with oils, you have the peaking of the oil. You know, if you watch like Bob Ross, he would use his palette knife to make swoops of white to give the highlight of the sun hitting the mountainside and such. If you went and looked at that painting, you would see where he dug into the paint. There would be a little ridge, and there would be texture to it that gives the painting more dimension when you look at it. It just has a different feel, right? The paint feels solid, not just dyed in. Acrylic tends to dry flat and feels very one-dimensional, right? Not that you can't do amazing things with acrylic, but when painting on canvas, it doesn't feel the same as looking at oils. So gel mediums were created to make acrylic thicker so that when you painted with it, you could swoop it with your brush and get that texture to dry that way. It would hold its form and peak and look more like an oil. So the finished product had valleys and peaks and things on it. So it had that dimension. Nobody in the hobby uses that. That's not what they're talking about. They say we can say it's a gel-like. What it is it's just a thicker medium, because you can imagine the thicker the fluid is, when I drop physical particles into it, the more they will float, okay? Meaning they'll stay mixed better the thicker the paint is, right? If you go get house paint, right? House paint is thicker. Turns out a lot of the people that we compete with, their paint is made by companies that make house paint. So it starts thicker, because that's how you get a lot of pigment to float in a suspension at a very low cost manner. Right? You thicken the medium, you can put a lot of pigment in it, you get good opacity, but it's hard to work with when you're dealing with details because it starts thicker, so you have to thin it. There's you get your too thin coats and dilute your paint and spend a lot of time with a wet palette and all that stuff. We don't believe in that. So the magic to Pro Acryl is we wanted to make a lightweight paint, meaning that it is more fluid, but we hold more pigment than they do in our paint, right? So that's the magic. That's the thing they can't do, is that we load more pigment into a lighter feeling fluid so that it is exactly like you said. It just feels better. You don't have to mess around on the palette. You can just take it right out of the bottle and paint with it. And when you're done, it lays flat, doesn't have any peaking to it, doesn't have any brush strokes defined in it, none of that. It's smooth, doesn't obscure details, but still gives you tremendous opacity and lots of color. That's it at the 50,000, right?
Source, does your glaze and wash medium increase drying time? If so, could it be used to make wet blending easier? Don't know if that answered earlier.
To increase drying, oh yeah. It does have a little bit of a retarder capability to it, not so much as Noosh, but it will. It acts as a little bit of a flow improver and extender, but we're talking minute, right? So it will help your blending last a little bit longer, right? Yeah, so wet blending easier, yeah. It will also dilute color, so be careful. Right? Because just like any drying retarder, you're also diluting the paint. You're making it more see-through as you go. So if you add too much, when you go to wet blend, you're going to be able to see through your blended layers, and it looks like the paint tears. So just be careful. Our paint by itself takes longer to dry than other people's hobby paints for that reason, so that you get more micro blending and easier blends out of it when wet blending and things like that. But if you're still seeing issues, then yes, using a little spot of the glaze wash medium to help it to, and you can even put the glaze wash medium on the model and then wet blend over that. It's a little bit more complicated, but yeah. More vitamins in your yum paint. That's not how that works, paint liquor. Attacks frost, yeah. No problem. Noosh helps with wet blending, and a little bit of it goes a long way, and you won't dilute the paint as much. But understand that Noosh also makes the paint not adhere to the surface as well, because that's really what it's for. So be careful, right? Because if you're wet blending, you're aggressively moving paint around more than you normally do, and with Noosh, it'll move that paint and not let it stick to the surface if you're not careful. Because it's supposed to be a subtractive medium, whereas the glaze wash medium is an additive, which is what you would really be better off using for that.
Digit Sniper has a good question. Is there a difference with the transparent paints versus regular paint with glaze and wash medium?
No. You'll get to a lower opacity quicker just because the paint is lower opacity out of the start. But no, they both work fantastic. The transparent paints are legit just paints that start at a lower opacity. That's all they are. Treat them just like any acrylic paint. They just give you the benefit of like super vibrancy, more like an ink, because they're all single pigment and super intense pigments at that. So, you're able to do things and get the results with them like you would with an ink, but they act like a paint. blend them with your other paints, mix them together, airbrush them, do whatever you want. We always say it on here that they're by far the most flexible paint you'll have in your arsenal when you get them, because they can just do so much.
Mm-hmm. You're all just tuning in. Welcome. We've been doing some freehand the last 30 minutes or so here. Did some dry brushing today. Did the panels yesterday on this bad boy. You missed that VOD. It's up on our YouTube channel. It's on the live tab. You can see all of our VODs there.
Giving you a lot of good resources these last 2 days with just how to get a vehicle on the table quick.
Yeah.
Or to set up for the long haul on a more display-oriented diorama vehicle. All of the things you're seeing me do can be used for fast painting or for, competition painting.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you're seeing me do is they could be defined as like hobby cheats, quick ways to affect the thing that we're doing. But none of these are cheap results. All of these are very good results that a competent judge, if you were painting at a very high level, would look at and recognize and judge you on your ability to do them and not knock you for doing them this way. But also things that'll help you get on the table quickly. So if you're painting like the new Deathcore army coming out, right, the Krieg, you'd be able to get tanks and stuff done for that very, very quickly. Maybe you're painting a Talarn army.
Yeah, this is this is about a 4-hour workup with talking and answering, so more like a 3 or maybe even
50% or less. Yeah. We generally say.
Yeah, so it's only been today and yesterday. We're out. Happy Friday.
It is Friday. Oh my God.
Oh. And it's almost 4 o'clock.
So happy it's Friday.
It's almost quitting time on Friday.
It's almost quitting time. Panic button. Wait, I'm supposed to pay attention? Can you just make a video? Make it more digestible?
Don't eat the paint.
There it is. Don't eat the paint. It's looking great.
Yowza.
I can't wait for that jerry can to be painted now. It's going to pop so nicely.
Well, yeah, when we talk about it, it's like, any of those types of details that you have that you can do. I mean, even the gun, right? I'm not going to worry about painting the gun until all the green is done and weathered.
Oh, yeah, it's
and we can paint the gun and the gun barrel differently. I'm really only focused on the main tank body color and weathering, and then I'll go back and do details. Anything small, spot details. There's a little gun for the machine gun port coming out by the driver hatch. Obviously, the 50 cal on the top, the jerry can, the lamp, on the front. All of that we'll do after the fact. I mean, there's little hoses on the legs, too. We'll do all the weathering and everything first, and then we'll come back and do those. Because those can all be weathered individually. We could make the jerry can look just as beat up as we do the tank. If the tank winds up looking really beat up, that's fine. We have the opportunity to do those on their own and not really spend a ton of time on them because they're so apart from the main body of the tank. So that works pretty well. You think Panic Bomb has a point, though? The short form video versions of this could do really well. Well, the game delay, have you been paying attention?
Do you know what Christopher is doing?
Hey, I'm working on it.
Game delay. Have you watched any of the recent videos?
It's almost like getting fixes.
It's almost like getting fixes in post.
That's right.
He does, technically, fix these in post. Yeah. He won't admit it. Who's Jerry and why are all of his cans all over tanks? You'd have to ask him.
I'm going to, Poppy and I are going to head out and go say goodbye to the crew.
Bye,
Poppy,
Shrimp.
Jen.
Everybody say bye, Shrimp.
Bye, Jen.
Thanks for letting
bye,
us
Poppy.
hang out today.
That's Shrimp. I have the dog trained to where she reacts to Shrimp more than she reacts to her name. She thinks her name is Shrimp.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the jerry can is a user replaceable part. Yeah, you can get a new jerry can when it gets a bullet hole in it. But the tank, they're not going to replace for you. It's late on Friday. If I can't be a brat now, when can I? I see you. I see you. Yeah, there you go, Wad. Bye, shrimp. So funny. That dog is the funniest dog. She just loves cuddles. She will jump, like in the morning, Jen gets up, and then when Jen goes to the bathroom and I'm just getting out of bed, the dogs come and dogpile me now, literally. And Poppy's whole thing is to just like literally body slam my face. She just comes bounding up the bed and jumps on my face.
Just right.
And starts giving you massive licks.
That's a fun little dog.
Yeah, she's crazy. Crazy. She has gotten very comfortable with us in a very short time. Because I think this is only like, what, week 3?
Oh,
we found her.
Seems like ages ago.
We found her on the Friday after Christmas. So, however long ago that's been. Nearly a month.
Yeah.
Ghost Hunter says there's 5,337. That's seat in Leet speak. Amazing artists in the Discord paint like it's new. Paint it like it's new.
Paint it like it's new. Paint it like it's new. Oh, boy.
Ghost Hunter, Ghost Hunter, Ghost Hunter. You'll see, everyone, that Chris has dropped all of the relevant links in chat there for you. We do stream here Monday through Friday every week. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time from our headquarters here in Phoenix, Arizona. Love seeing everybody here. Hope you've had a wonderful week with us. We've done quite a bit of work. Go back to the tabletop cam here. We got to do all of the finish work on Anthony El Tigre. So we've just got a couple of details left, the leather on the pommel of the sword, and then this little chain over here. And then I might go back and fill in some details and such. But all in all, it turned out really, really good. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. We've already had the initial flesh tutorial along with the black armor tutorial as 2 separate videos hit the YouTubes. I know you probably have something ready or working on for some of the gold non-metallic.
Yep.
So we've got a lot more information coming for you with regards to this model that will be broken out. And then, of course, finishing up the week this week, yesterday and today. Yesterday we went through all of the airbrush basing techniques to get the initial weathering layout done on this. So all this is 3 colors airbrushed and then the dry brush that we've done today. So a very, very good way to get weathering and base coats done on a vehicle of any type. You can see this one has a lot of nooks and crannies, lots of little bits and parts. But even if you're doing something that has larger, broad sides and roof, all of the things that you see me doing apply just the same. So great way to hopefully get you confident in painting vehicles and have them turn out really, really good, really fast. Because even before we started doing the freehanding, just with a dry brush and the airbrush, this tank could have been done with a little bit of basing material and paint the gun and the jerry can. And you'd be happy. Probably paint the light on the front so it's not black. That's a little weird. But so a good way to finish out the week. We'll start Monday in again on this guy, working on the numerics and all that, and then the weathering, because it won't take me long to do the numbers on the side of the tank. Finish up the white. Dag says that's all we're doing is these 4 little white spots, like so, on there. And then we'll do the 42 in yellow on the side of the turret. And maybe we'll do like an identifier number down low or something like that, or a unit marking or something in yellow down low. Have some fun with it. And then we'll start in with all the weathering. I want to go through showing you things like how to do chipping, and then how to do streaking and overall filters using mostly Noosh on this, so that you can get things like the paint oxidation to look real. Obviously the chips, self-explanatory for chipping of the paint. We'll do this in a more realistic sense than we do some of our other things. You know, you've seen us do the Battletech miniature here recently. We've done a myriad of dreadnoughts and space marines with chipping, where we go, you know, hog wild, you know, because it's fantasy and you imagine bullets flying every direction. In the grand scheme of how tanks weather, it's not really how that works until they're dead. This one's still working, so it hasn't been hit too much. But we'll have a lot of fun with the weathering, and then we'll find something else to do. So that'll take us through the week. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. Hit all the links. Check out monumenthobbies.com, where you can pick up your own Pro Acryl and Pro Series brushes that you've seen us use, the dry brushes and the normal brushes we've been in full effect with this week. And then also check out the FLGS link that he put up in chat, so you can check to see if there's a store near you in your country, closer in your vicinity. Support them because they help build the hobby for all the real folk out there enjoying it. Then check out our YouTube and our Discord, where, like was stated earlier, there are 5,337 amazing people painting it like it's new, and I'm not going to say it like that again, Ghost Hunter. It's not going to happen. But thanks, Zhang, for hanging out with us this week. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stick around. Chris is going to find somebody to raid, show some love in the chat we wind up in, and we'll see you on the flip side. Adios, chat.